Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the SpyShack podcast, a podcast where superfans get together and talk about the latest episode of Survivor. My name is Mark. I'm your co-host for tonight. Doug is not here, neither is Kim, but we have two great other co-hosts here with us tonight. First up, he is the man, the myth, the legend. He is, who are you? He's Randy.
How are you doing tonight, Mark?
I am just starting to wake up.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks for asking.
That's true. That's true. Well, I'm going to ask you the question before you ask me. What's your one word to describe this episode?
Sadness.
I think that's good. Well, yeah, as Mark said, my name is Randy. I think I'm going to go with the word almost. Because I have a feeling I'm going to be using that a lot tonight, almost. And joining us, subbing in, as Mark said, Saul and Kim are not here. But tonight we have the person who I had the misfortune of sitting next to watch the show live last week in Boston. It is Doug. Doug, how are you doing tonight? What's your one word to describe the episode?
It was me. I'm doing pretty well. And my one word to describe this episode was dichotomic. Split everything in half.
Yep. Yeah, I like this. I think we'll talk a lot about this, but I think this was a fun episode. So this episode was called "The Finish Line is in Sight," as we hear Dom say it pretty early on. So we'll talk about right as we start the episode right off. We don't really waste too much time. We go right back to camp after Tribal, and Dom thanks Laurel for exposing Desiree's plan, but Kellen is still a little hesitant about working with Laurel. Yeah, she appreciates that she didn't go home, but she's not 100% sold on Laurel. What did you guys think of how Dom played this, and then also Kellen's response?
I wasn't surprised by Kellen's response really at all. Kellen's a fun person to watch. I like her a lot as a character, but her gut is just terrible.
She has this tunnel vision that is kind of unprecedented, and like she's this just navity, and nothing else matters. And I don't know if I'm a fan of that plan.
Yeah, but wouldn't you, if everything the whole game has gone your way so conveniently when it comes to numbers, that it's numbers always, no matter what, seem to benefit Naviti? I don't blame her, but my only issue with this thing right here was I wasn't a big fan of Dom doing this in front of Kellen. I think I was a little hesitant about that, because if the whole idea of Donathan and Laurel being secretive in Dom and Wendell's pocket, that I think that was a little much, but I think it was fine. And Kellen, I think, is rightfully so to be a little hesitant with Laurel and trusting her too much. But she needs to give her some credit, because she kind of saved her this week, because if Desiree would have gotten her way. So the next morning, Dom and Wendell re-solidify their allegiance to each other and say, we got to work together. This is only going to work if we work together. And they both agree on that. And I think that's for now. And I have a feeling that we may see hints of that in the future, of that conversation again. But we see Dominic go out and throughout camp and search for an idol, and he comes across David Wright's fake idol, and I don't really think he hides it for someone to find, but he just stores it off to the side, I think, to use later. I don't think he was hiding it for someone else to find it yet, because I think he made an even comment about, like, I don't know how I'm going to use this yet. So he did hide it somewhere, and someone could find it, but I don't think he hid it for the purpose of someone else to find it. What did you guys think of Dom and Wendell's discussion, and then also the emergence of the David Wright fake idol?
I thought their conversation was interesting. There were also, throughout the episode, there just traces of one of them being willing to kind of sacrifice the other for their game. I thought that was interesting as well. And regarding the fake idol, I don't know if I really understand how the idol works. I think the clue says that it hasn't matured into a real idol. Is there a way to make it so?
It's a fake idol.
It is a fake idol.
As I think it was the great Colin Stone that posted, Dominic has a real idol, a real fake idol, and a fake idol. Is what he's had this season. He's been all over the board.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't need to see David's fake idol come back with no powers. I'm like, I think my least favorite thing about this season, having played out as much as it has so far, is the relics and sort of how they're treating them. So the fact that we just got one that actually does nothing is kind of a bummer. But I get why they're doing it. I understand it. It's not like out of place. It's the only thing. Well, one of the few things so far that's actually just is the relic that it is. So I can appreciate that at least.
I think this is my only disappointing use of the relics. I think I've been happy with everything of how they've integrated everything so far. I like how the Ty Scott idol, you needed both pieces. I think that was a fun little thing. My problem with this one is I guess it's incomplete, my thought here, because is there a clue hidden with, is there like a note hidden with David's idol that makes it look real? Because I have a problem with Survivor putting out a real note with a fake idol. I think I have a problem with that in my head. If someone uses an old note of theirs and uses their resources, I have no problem with them hiding an idol or anything like that out there. But the fact of Survivor purposefully putting an idol out there it should be realistic, and just it not having powers kind of bothers me in the back of my head. But I guess I don't know for sure if there is a real note with it. We may see that eventually if it gets found, but I would think they're probably going to have a note with it.
And plus, with the order of the idols, I think they could have led with this one and have it like be powerless, and then at this point put in the Eliza Orland's Evan Stick idol. And it would be a little more of a surprise to be like, oh, whoa, there it is.
I think they really wanted the F and Stick out there. So I think that's why they put that in earlier, because if certain things wouldn't have been used, this one was more of a backup of, if we get to the point where we need to put in another one, then we'll put in David's idol, or then we'll do this, or I don't know. That's kind of the way I feel about it. But is that really a cursed item? That really bothers me, because
no, it's not.
But most of them aren't. Like, I'm in on this season, but I'm out on Ghost Island's implementation. So like, in on Ghost Island the season, out on Ghost Island the twist, because the stuff that they've been doing is just like sort of all over the place. It's like cool that they're doing it, but it's weird that they're doing it to old stuff. Some of it's cursed, some of it's not. Some of it has a new story, some of it's sticking to the old story. It's just kind of all over the board.
Yeah, and it's one of those things like, if Ty would have used the idol to save his friend, he would have gone home.
Right,
and
not cursed.
Honestly,
he used it correctly.
Same thing in this episode, that if Jonathan would have used it on his friend, he would have gone home. So I think I like how that storyline continues on, but we'll get to more of that later. But I have a little bit of issues there. So here we are, 6 minutes into the episode, and we are at our immunity challenge. It was exactly 6 minutes in, wasting no time. And right when that happened, I was like, "Oh, something is going down. Just something's happening this episode." We walk up to the immunity challenge, and we see you have to pull up on a bar to clamp a ball above your head and keep it from falling. Very basic. I'm getting tired of basic challenges. I want something athletic. I want an obstacle course. I want something where you're running around doing something. I don't know. I'm getting tired of immunity challenges where you're just standing there. But that's beside. It's just because we've had so many, I feel like much
of what they've done this season falls into the camp of, I'm happy with half of it and unhappy with the other.
Yes.
And this challenge,
I'm almost very happy.
Yeah, I'm so stoked that we're getting a new challenge, because that's what I want. I want to see new things that we've never seen before. But I'm very, 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 very tired of endurance challenges that are designed to last 15 minutes.
Yes.
If it's designed to last 15 minutes, don't even show it to me. I don't want to see it.
And this is a perfect segue into this of almost very happy. Is Jeff then announces we have 2 immunity necklaces, and 2 people are going home at 2 separate tribals, and we are doing that by randomly picking 2 new temporary tribes. I'm on board. I'm in. I love it. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. And then we see the tribes. Legitimately, the 5 people in my mind that are good characters and have a chance to win the game and then those other people that are also on the island. So on the orange tribe, we have Dominic, Wendell, Kellen, Michael, and Laurel. And then on the other side, we have Angela, Chelsea, Sebastian, Donathan, and Jenna. And I'm just in shock. With the pure fact that we are losing one of these 5 orange people is killing me. Because I really like all 5 of them.
All these splits, all like back then
Every
with a 3-try
single one.
split. It's 3-2 every time.
It's amazing how the way we've had 3 random draws this season that will make a big move in the game, and all 3 have left Navidi down in the. I mean, Malolo down in the numbers on all sides, and it's just crazy to me. But I'm all on board. What did you guys think before we go too much into what the split is and any further? What do you guys think about this twist?
I'm all for it because I think people have been talking about the unmerge for a very long time. And the only way that you could unmerge is to do it 1 round at a time, I think, 2 max. And so despite the results that we got, I'm still 100% on board because that's totally random. The results are totally random. I think the structure was everything it needed to be. It's really unfortunate that the only way for 2 original Navidi to go home was for all 4 Malolo to end up on the same side. But that's something that's totally outside of the
3 of them. Just needed 1 more. Just have 3. Then you have 3 to 2 vote.
If you wanted 2
if you wanted 2 to go home, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
But it's just crazy to me of how all this worked. And one twist. So when you see the preview ahead of time and you know they're doing something here, your mind goes wild of different possibilities. And I think the way I would have liked to have seen it was you have 2 winners. You have 2. It's straight up 10 people going. You have 2 winners. From there, you pick your tribes. You pick who's going to tribal with the 2 winners. Say, and at this point, it would have been Dominic and Wendell. Dominic picks, okay, I want Laurel at tribal with me. And you kind of go from there. I think it adds a little bit more to the winner. I don't know how it would have worked. But that was the idea in my head going into it of this is the way we're going to do it. And I think that would have been fun.
I'd be fine seeing that. I think
it puts a lot of power into the winners. It puts a lot of power on the winners.
Sure. I think you could do both. I think we could this is the type of thing where they could do something similar next season, but the twist is what you're talking about, right? They're going into it, or we're as an audience going into it expecting one thing, and then we get a slight variation.
But you know that the final 2 of that was Dominic and Wendell, and we would have had the same response. We would have had the same answer. Because you know they would have worked together to make sure that they had 3 and 2. Because Michael and Jenna were their targets all along.
Yep.
And so I don't think it would have changed this one. But I'm all for Survivor trying things. I was very happy with this idea of a twist. And plus, it makes it a lot better than the stupid double boot 1 hour down at the final 8 and 7. And plus, 10 is usually a boring boot, so that we get rid of the boot at 10. But only bad part is we also lose 9, which is usually a big swing. Yeah. So it's a little bit right there. But so as I said, we have orange and purple both going. It quickly narrows down to it's either going to be Chelsea or Angela, or Dominic and Wendell. Angela falls and Chelsea wins for the purple tribe, and then we see a pretty long drawn out battle between Dom and Wendell, and Dom ends up winning for orange and wins immunity and chooses and not chooses but decides that they are going to tribal second. So we'll have purple and then orange. From here, that's where we're going to split this episode. From right now, we're going to start talking all purple. We're going to talk purple pre-tribal, purple at tribal, and then we'll come back to the more exciting one. Do you guys have anything to say about the actual immunity challenge itself before we go any further? It was pretty basic.
Just that Chelsea has won 2 immunity challenges and is the only one to do so, and we still barely can remember what she sounds like.
2 in a row. Yeah, it's amazing.
I mean, props to her. I wish that we could at least hear her celebrate.
Yeah, I think we learned recently that she has now had the least the least confessionals for someone that has made it this far in the game.
Yep, she's the single most invisible person. Like,
does she
ever.
Does she have more than Jacob Derwin? Because I don't think so.
I doubt it.
I still think Jacob has more than her, and he lasted one day, like one day of, but one episode for us, like 2-hour episode.
Yeah.
So crazy. So okay, purple. We see right after the immunity challenge, we see Sebastian, Angela, and Chelsea basically say it's going to be Jenna, but we need to make her believe it's going to be Donathan.
Mm-hmm.
Jenna and Donathan discuss the vote, and he tells her, vote for Sebastian, be safe. I'm going to play my idol. I may play it on you. We'll see. And at this point in time, Jenna takes this as, okay, then I'll target Donathan instead of deciding to work together, which I thought was very weird. What did you guys think of the way that the Navidi 3 handled this and the way that Jenna and Donathan discussed this pre-tribal?
This was the biggest comedy of just sheer like chaos. Like nothing anybody was saying was a fully formed strategy, and it almost ended up being this sort of glorious disaster that I would have been happy to watch. I wouldn't have liked the result, but I say all the time, like, bad gameplay makes for fantastic television. So we almost got this sort of weird, bizarre, accidental good and bad thing at the same time. Yeah. And I was just like absolutely glued to the screen because I just was afraid I was going to miss some sort of like trip and fall and fumble.
Agreed.
It was absolutely was captivating. It's the only really, really, really just like disastrous, unformed play we've seen. Like, we've seen bad overthought play. This was like bad underthought play.
Yeah. This was weird. Like, I don't know why Jenna thought that she should target Donathan. I don't know why she went for that. I don't know how realistic it was for Donathan to ever play. Like, if he was ever really going to play it on Jenna, I don't think he really was. But
it's hard to say because he says he was thinking about it, but it's been 6 months.
Exactly.
Or longer, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go right into tribal, and we won't waste our time because the show sure didn't. Donathan mentions that Malolo is screwed yet again. Jenna announces that she knows it's her, and she's going to go home, and let's go ahead and vote. And Jeff is... Are we done? Is that it? Do we need anything more? And no, we don't. We really don't. Donathan ends up playing his idol for himself, and we see 3 votes for Jenna from the Navidi group, 1 vote for Sebastian from Donathan, and 1 vote for Donathan from Jenna. So at this point in time, Doug, I'm going to let you say the goodbye. Start with the goodbye to Jenna because it should be Kim. Kim drafted Jenna, and Kim is not here. So I'll let you start, and then I have some additional thoughts at the end.
Yeah, I think that if Jenna hadn't gone out in the way that she did and in the episode that she did, and if Malolo hadn't been such an obliterated tribe, I think Jenna could have been a really funny character to have on the show, but her circumstances just dictated her being somebody who was very she was nobody, like, which really, really stinks. You never want to be that person, so it's kind of a bummer, but I just don't have a lot to say, Mm-hmm. She had a couple silly moments, but not enough to really remember her next year.
I am so glad that you say she's funny because I watched her joint Ponderosa, and she was hilarious.
She was great. She was great in that.
Absolutely hilarious. Dr. Joe says, how do you feel? I feel pregnant.
I get the sense based on, her pregame stuff and little moments that she's just dry. And I think that when she's starved, that probably wasn't translating enough for them to put her on screen.
Yeah, she was absolutely great in the Ponderosa video. I really liked I wish we would have seen a lot more of that because we really didn't see that in the season, and that was very disappointing. Her Ponderosa really made me miss her. But she was just a victim of her circumstances. There was really nothing she could do, I don't think, there, unless I don't know. I think she could have maybe tried to work Sebastian a little bit harder to try to do something there, or maybe somehow figure out that they were going to vote for her and get Donathan to use it on her, but her not vote for Donathan, and maybe get one of them out. Like, I think there's some stuff there, but it would have been a big gameplay.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things she could have done sort of in theory, but the editors have been really good this season.
Yes, I 100% agree with you.
When you pick away all of the aesthetic stuff and all the theme stuff, like what we're looking at is two people who are running a game and a bunch of other people who are afraid to do anything about it. And if the other people weren't so afraid to do something about it, Jenna would have had room to move, and I think she would have had strings to pull, like Sebastian or, you know, the women's thing that was sort of happening a little bit. Like there were a lot of avenues, but no one's willing to drive down those avenues.
And the fact that she had to go to the jury immediately after getting voted out was cold-blooded.
Oh, yeah. No final words.
That was heartbreaking.
And hilarious.
No, I agree. I agree. But just like how, like, and then plug your ears if you're a small child. I'm sorry. But I got to quote my new favorite, Michelle Fitzgerald, of her getting sent to the jury this quickly is too fucking real. And just like that, too fucking real, too fucking fast is, I think, the exact quote.
No time to process. She gets no instruction. I mean, normally when you end up on the jury, you've had a few days or a couple days at least, 24 hours at least, to like sit down and process and remove yourself from the sort of paranoia and everything. And she hasn't.
No.
She's like, it's wild. Only like what, one other person has ever experienced that? Is it what, Big Tom or something? Like, there's rarely been people who are immediately sent over to the jury, and she's in a very, very small few.
That's tough.
That's really rough.
Mark, you have any parting notes for Jenna?
Yeah, the Ponderosa Jenna was the Jenna that we saw on the show, because man, what if I would have had such a different opinion on her had I seen that during the show instead of you know, in that little clip, and you know that, yeah, we'll get to it, but that little commercial they did at the end was just gold. I loved it. So
I agree.
I'm ready to move on.
Okay, then let's put it in rewind, and let's go back to Orange. So now let's get to Varsity. Orange. We see after immunity, we see Dominic note that Michael's the easy vote here, guys. Like, this is straightforward. Michael talks to Donathan to ask if he can temporarily hold the idol just to show that he has one, to try to trick Kellen or Laurel or someone that he has the idol, and then he'll give it back to Donathan. Donathan shuts that down.
No.
Immediately, no.
No.
And I think Donathan made the right decision here. Because, one, when Donathan gives it to Michael, Michael doesn't have to give it back. So there's a risk of that. And also, if this plan gets out, that could look bad on Donathan, who does feel like he is in tight with Dom and Wendell. So I understand where he's coming from here. What did you guys think of the way that Donathan handled Michael's request?
He could have been a little softer with it. just a cold-hearted, stone-cold no. But like as you said, we can see where he's coming from, and he has a solid thing with Laurel, Dominic, and Wendell, so he's not gonna screw with that if he doesn't have to.
Anything from you, Doug?
No, I don't think so. It was just sort of a funny scene to watch, you know? Like, I enjoyed what was happening because it's not a common circumstance, but it was the right move.
Yeah.
It's almost a but, you know.
Yeah. So then we see Michael take Kellen down to the beach and thoroughly convince Kellen that he has an idol. She's sold 100%. Kellen tells Dominic about Michael's idol, and he's like, no, he doesn't. Trust me, he does not have an idol. But either way, Kellen plans to vote for Laurel and potentially using her extra vote, which I 100% forgot about the extra vote. And this was like, I knew she had it, but with how kind of like exciting this episode was, I didn't think about it till she mentioned it. So that was very exciting to think about. And then Wendell tells Laurel about Kellen's plan, and Laurel is leaning towards voting for Kellen, and kind of wants to get Dom and Wendell on board. So what do you guys think of all this? How all this went down? How Kellen handled things? How Michael sold it? And how Laurel reacted to the whole thing?
Michael didn't have to sell anything because, like we've mentioned a bajillion times, Kellen, I don't understand how someone has such terrible instincts all the time, like constantly. It's like impressive.
Yeah.
I don't understand. There was a lot of chatter on Twitter about how, what Michael's doing isn't genius or brilliant or masterful at all. He literally does what anybody in that circumstance is supposed to do. And Kellen, who is a super fan, just bites so hard. It was really, really astonishing. I don't know. It was weird. But it does prompt her to do something that I think is correct. But we'll get a little more to that, I think, at the Tribal Council.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and this kind of goes back to my word of the episode of, I think Michael almost does a really good job with this. I think that the key that he's missing is, okay, now with all this action, who are we going to vote for? What is our voting plan? Because I feel like that's what he was missing, both with Kellen and with Laurel, is now what are we going to do with this plan? Now we know I have an idol, so what's our plan? Because at the end of the day, the three of them end up voting for three different people. And that's a problem. So let's get right into Tribal Council. Laurel talks that Malolo is being continuously now outnumbered throughout the whole thing. What are they supposed to do? I think that Laurel does a good job of selling her Malolo underdog in these Tribal Councils without giving away the fact of her closeness with Wendell and Dominic. Because she basically says, you guys do what they say. We're in the same place over. I keep saying we need to rise up. We need to do something. And the second Desiree rises up, Laurel goes running to Dominic. And I think she's doing a good job of trying to hide that relationship there.
I'm really, really struggling to see where she converts the play. Do you know what I mean? Like, I get where she's coming from, and I see what she's doing, and she's doing a good job, but it's very much the classic sort of like, at some point, I'm going to use like a Survivor New Zealand analogy, so I apologize. I'll explain myself. But
which season?
Second season. There's somebody on this current season of Survivor New Zealand who said, I want to play the role of somebody who's underestimated and that nobody looks at, but my challenge is converting that into convincing other people that I actually played. And I'm very, very, very worried that Laurel's going to struggle, as anybody I think would, to convert what she's doing into, but actually, everyone, I was the one driving this. So what she's doing is super effective now. I just need to see that little glint of, here's when I'm going to make my move, and we haven't gotten it yet. So I love Laurel. I want it to work, and I'm just terrified for her.
I think more of what I'm saying is that I think she's doing a good job of setting it up for the jury, of saying, I've been saying all along, we need to do something. We need to do something. She's showing that she's not just sitting back and taking it, but she's also still has this relationship with them. And she's referencing, and someone may get screwed like Libby did. I know Libby got screwed and kind of playing to the jury. I think she's starting. And so I agree with you. She's going to have a hard time of making the flip and converting, but I think she's trying to set the groundwork. With the jury.
If this is her performance art piece, right? If what she's doing is trying to convince them while not actually meaning this, like, guys, we got to do the thing. We got to do a thing. Is she trying to paint herself as a Sandra 2.0? Because Sandra 2.0, it was real.
Yeah,
she was saying, let's do this, and nobody would do it. Laurel, however, isn't actually wanting to do it, but she's making it seem like she does.
The thing is, she had a lot of important conversations with people around, so I think maybe that's what she's thinking that's going to count. But she's doing a lot of like, in retrospect, she might have done a lot of following, like from the Dominic and Wendell side. So I don't know which side jury's gonna weigh more on.
Yeah, I'm worried about the perception of it. Right, we saw last week. we saw Kellen confront Dominic and say, "You guys keep getting your way. Now we want our way."
And when do we want it?
Now. And she still didn't get her way. You know, so I'm just worried that everyone else who saw that Wendell and Dominic kept getting their way are going to question when Laurel got hers. So,
yeah.
I love me some Laurel.
I think I like the spot that she's in right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think I like the spot because I think we're at the point in time where, hey, we're at 6-2. Okay, let's start getting rid of some of our fellow Navidis now that we have such a huge advantage. And I think that she has some ties potentially to both sides. And I think that, and we know she's athletic, and I'm hoping this comes back to help her in the end in some challenges.
I think Laurel is playing from the exact best position that somebody from the metagame of her position can play. We don't see a lot of black women win Survivor, and it's for a particular reason, and I think she's smart and aware of it. And she's sort of in a similar position to like older women where they have to like be as inoffensive as possible for like the meta of it all.
Yeah.
And she's doing that so well.
Yeah,
I agree.
We've only had a couple, right?
Bisepia,
and who else?
Isn't that it?
I think
Bisepia.
she's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just Vesepia. So Laurel's doing something that's really incredible. And I do think that if Laurel ends up winning this game, it won't be super flashy, but it also couldn't be super flashy. And so the people who are going to have been watching her journey this whole time, I think are going to give her the credit that's due because of the game that she had to play. And will look at her and say like, damn, you did a really freaking good job given your circumstances. I'm hoping so bad, and I'm crossing every appendage I have that she can pull it off.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
Yeah.
So as we continue on, we suddenly see Dom and Wendell start whispering to each other. And I don't know if they're really saying anything.
Well, this is where I start to.
To me, this is the point in time where the three people that don't get the message of the whisper need to work together. And the fact that they are saying that, yep, the two of us are deciding, the two of us are deciding, and the three of them are all out there just being like, well, I hope that they're deciding to go our way. Like that, the fact that no one said anything at that point in time on the offensive instead of just being like, I don't know. As Laurel said, well, they're basically deciding if they're going to take the shot at Michael or not. And they were going to before. And if they're whispering now, that means they probably switched to me. Like, I liked the way she said that. I thought that was a good comment. But I wish there was more to that.
I think this is getting exactly to the point where I think Kellen did something right within the context of Kellen, right? I can see why Kellen isn't liked by a lot of people, and I think this is a perfect example. What I think Kellen should have been doing was working, like you said, Randy, with Michael and Laurel in that moment, but Kellen is so obsessed with preserving Navidi that using her extra vote was, in a way, trying to preserve Navidi, right? Because if everything else went to hell, her 2 votes were going to tie up anything that happened from her perspective. But you're right. It wasn't the right move on her part. She should have been reaching across tribal. She should have been doing a bit more. It was just really bizarre to watch her do nothing and to watch the other 2 do nothing.
Yeah, that bothered me. That really bothered me there. But as we go to it, it's time to vote. We see Kellen use her extra vote. And we end up with 2 votes for Michael, which come from Dom and Wendell. 2 votes for Laurel, which both come from Kellen. Michael votes for Wendell. And then Laurel votes for Kellen. At this point in time, if Michael would have just voted for Laurel, she gone. But I obviously didn't want to see her go there either. I didn't know who I wanted to go. I think I wanted to see Kellen go. I was struggling. I was struggling during this tribal council. But on the revote, Michael is voted out 3-0, and 18-year-old Michael leaves the game after a good season. Like, I guess I'll start with the goodbyes here. This another one that should have been Kim. Kim lost 2 people this episode, which kind of sucks for her. But I think Michael was had the right instincts in this game, in my opinion. I think he was very charismatic with people. He won people over. He did a good job of thinking of a lot of the different angles. He was almost a great player. He was a very good player. He was almost great. We will see Michael again. I guarantee it. If he ever wants to come back in years, give him time. Let him grow up. Let him actually be 23. The scene in the Ponderosa where he tells Libby that he's actually 18 was quite interesting. But I think that Michael was very entertaining all season. I'm sad to see him go. Out of the people that I thought had a chance to win, I thought he was near the bottom because of his position in the game. So, yeah, I think we still have 4 out there that have a good chance.
What we've seen, it's kind of like he's playing from behind, kind of the way Sandra was playing from behind a while back. You know, he should have been gone a long time ago, but he kind of finessed his way and idled his way through to freaking day 29. And I think that's very impressive for a guy who's only 18. And as you said, you know, give him a couple years, give him a few years to kind of settle into this whole experience, and then he'll come back stronger and he'll come back a better player. And I'm excited to see him again if he does come back down the line.
Now for Doug for the rebuttal.
I think Michael was a good player on a season of not good players. I think that he was easy to root for because he was the one person who was consistently opposed to the large group headed by a couple people. I think if lots of people were playing this game, Michael wouldn't stand out in the way that he did. It doesn't make him less of a great character, and it didn't make him less rootable. I'm just not as convinced that if he were to come back on an all-returnee season, that he would shine in the way that he does. I think if Michael were in the majority, he would have been boring. But I'm glad we got the version of Michael we did, because if he were to return, I don't think he will. I'm not as convinced that he's going to want to.
I think he would be invited back. Yeah, I think he'd be invited back. I don't know if he'd do it.
100%.
I guess that's what I should be. Yeah, I agree.
I do think that we got the best first version of Michael we could get, because if he does come back, that's his context. So my hope is that, despite my thinking that he wouldn't be that exciting with all returnees, his entire story is being the firecracker at Tribal Council, and my hope is he'd try to live up to that. It's like the one circumstance where you kind of want the returnee to play into their own ego and story. Like, I want Michael to come back and do the same stuff but bigger. Normally, I wouldn't.
If Bradley were to come back, I feel that way. If Bradley were to come back, I would want Bradley to accept the villain card and run with it. Like,
well, and I don't love talking about who I want to come back, but like, since you brought up Bradley, I would take Bradley twice again over Michael. I think he's I
would love to see Bradley and Chris Noble back, because I think they're both just like,
oh my god,
just ridiculous weirdos, and I kind of love that.
I mean, if we're gonna put people out there, I'm gonna put Stephanie Johnson out there as well. So.
She didn't do anything for me.
Whatever.
But I think
good, but I don't need her.
Yeah. So at this point in time, I will go to our draft. Let me know when you guys can see the draft. I'm hoping you can. Can you see it now?
Yep.
Okay. So in first, I'm leading with 136 points still left with Sebastian, Kellen, and Laurel. Kim is in second with 119, left with Wendell. Losing 2 people this episode will hurt her, but having Wendell could really help her in the long run. Saul is left in third place with 100 points with 2 people, Dominic and Donathan. And then Mark is in fourth with 99 points, just 1 point back with Angela, and then the immunity beast, Chelsea. Mark keeps crawling his way back with all these Chelsea immunity points.
Well, I mean, you got to get it however you can get it.
Well, Mark has, 3 of the 5 individual immunity wins on his team right now?
Angela, Chelsea, yeah. And then who else we have? Dominic and Kellen are the other 2 this season?
I think so.
Yeah. I have Kellen and Saul has Dominic. So let's kind of talk moving forward. Well, yeah, let's talk moving forward here. Next time on, we see Kellen get riled up about something. It looks like she's mad about Dominic and Wendell. We've seen it before. We'll see if this time actually something ever happens. And then loved ones visit. Loved ones visit next episode, which I always really enjoy. I think it's a fun episode. It's more of the character side than it is the strategic side, but I think it's still a fun thing to see. It's a point in the game that it's a goal that you want to get to. We only have 3 weeks left. So we will see what happens in the last 10 days of the game, but we are very much nearing the end. One question that we got early on in the time was from Patty asking, who's playing better, Dom or Wendell? What do you guys think here? Because I feel like I'm pretty torn.
I think that given what we've seen from this cast as far as gameplay, which I don't think is a ton from the jury point forward, I think Dom is probably in a it's so tough.
Yeah.
Wendell's playing a less risky game, which is safer in getting you there. But I'm worried that if the two of them sat next to each other, Dominic would get a lot more credit unless he really starts pissing people off. So it's kind of that sort of balancing game of one of them is going to probably have a longer resume. The other one's probably going to have better relationships. And where does the jury decide to put that value?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
Classic.
Along with that, what did you think of their banter during the immunity challenge? Of how open and upfront they were about their little battle?
They're just kind of flaunting it, and people are just kind of letting it be. And I don't know how they're not just seeing this bromance as this big threat, because they're keeping them together for now, but eventually we're getting down to it, and there's right now it's 2 out of 8. Eventually it's going to be 2 votes out of 7, and eventually they're going to be too much to handle. Somebody's got to do something here.
I think I like this season, and as long as I enjoy watching the season while it's on, it stays something favorable to me. But I predict that this is going to be the type of season that people look back on and say, and really undervalue, because you have these 2 guys who really are just having their way with the game. And it's going to be a cast that's heavily criticized for going along with the status quo. And I think interactions.
What do you compare that to?
One World.
One World? Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think that's the first one that comes to mind. That's one example, but I think there are probably a couple other ones. But One World's probably the biggest one I can think of. And I think that this sort of interaction at the challenge between Dom and Wendell is the stuff that wouldn't be excused on a lot of other seasons, but everybody loves them. They freaking love them.
They just think they're a couple of clowns.
Why would they call them out? Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you there. I think I read someone on Twitter during this episode of the craziness happening back at camp after the immunity is what One World could have been. Basically, we have 2 tribes in chaos.
Yes.
Kind of intermingling of things. And I was like, yes, I agree. I think the idea of One World was great. I think, but I think there were some issues there.
Josh Wigler said it best. They would need to rebrand it in order to use that twist again.
Oh, agreed. Because the first one was so painful.
Yep.
So here's the question of the week that we ask every week. And I'm going to make Mark go first. Who was the episode MVP?
Why'd you make me go first?
Because I know how Doug thinks about it, and I know how I think about it. And Doug and I discussed this when we were in Boston a little bit. So I'm going to make you go first.
God damn it. I'm going to go with Dominic. Because... going back to the conversation we're having earlier, his game is just more visible than Wendell. Coming down to the final tribal council, with this open forum thing, he's gonna have more of a stage than Wendell to argue his points, and he has more points to prove to the jury that he's got the game than Wendell. Wendell's gonna have a lot more to prove. So as of right now, I'm gonna give it, and he has most control over the tribe, so I'm gonna give it to Dominic.
Okay. Doug, do you want to go second or third?
I can go now. The pool's really, really small. I think Mark was making a lot of good points. I'll give mine to Jonathan, even though it's not normally how I would give it. A lot of what he was doing was reactionary, but it was done correctly. I want to believe that Jonathan was thinking about it and picking up on the things that he needed to be picking up on in order to get himself to the next round. I don't think it necessarily sets him up great, but it also didn't hurt him at all. And his entire goal was to just survive this bizarre circumstance, and he did pull that off.
Yep, and I love whenever they have a good quote where I think he said something about Survivor bitch slapped us today or something along those lines. I thought that was great.
Yep.
I'm very glad you didn't take mine, and just because I would have said Dominic, but I'm gonna go with
What I would have said too.
I know I'm gonna go with Chelsea, 2-time immunity winner. She got what she wanted. She led a trio of 3 to dominate that tribal. And,
What did she lead?
She sat there and wrote a name down, and she achieved her goal of participating in the episode. So I think
it's time for your pills.
I just don't like the repeat. So I'm gonna go with Chelsea for participating.
Oh my goodness.
Deal with it.
Fine.
Looking forward, as I said, 3 weeks left. We'll lose one the next 2 weeks, go into the finale with 6. We'll have the final 4 of a fire making challenge. We'll see how that works. We know they know about it. We haven't heard them talk about it, but we know they know about it. So I'm intrigued to see if Ghost Island plays a role in the next couple weeks, because I would think it would have to, because I'm pretty sure there's still a few urns left there. And Patty, I'm not hating on Chelsea. I gave her my MVP. And so
I'm hating on Chelsea, okay? And she's on my team.
Chelsea has like an entire army of stands on the internet. She doesn't need us.
Are we surprised?
She does not need us.
Are we surprised people love her? Queen Chelsea.
More people are fans of Chelsea than Kellen. Like, Kellen needs us. Chelsea does not.
Okay, no, fine. You have a point there.
Kellen is more my people. Like, I say that's Kellen is much more my people.
No, Kellen's playing the game harder. That's just she needs to direct that gameplay in the right direction.
So I would rather you swing and miss over and over and over and over again, because that's what I want to watch. So I appreciate Kellen.
Here's my confusion with Kellen right now. Sometimes she gets this really weird voice and this weird way about herself where she just acts really strange in her responses and her comments. And I think at Tribal, like, she started talking really weird. I don't know. She every now and then she does this weird. It's almost like this weird voice she does. I don't get it. Don't get me wrong. I'm still on board with Kellen, but every now and then she gets really weird, and I don't know why.
I just think she's an excitable person, and so sometimes you get her when she's like worked up and fired up, and sometimes you get her when she's like a bit more chill. It's like, I think she's just a very emotional person. Like, right? She described herself as super empathic and like emotional and whatnot. I think that's what you're seeing.
Well, and it was only right that, like, they're basically 2 separate people anyway, that Kellen and her gut both got to vote this week. So I was glad to see that.
Oh, please. I need to bring this up. The second vote thing. The final straw for me against the relics is, this made me cringe. Did anybody else cringe?
When she wrote it upside down?
No, the fact that she had to write on it at all, it like hurts my soul that they literally took this iconic thing and were like, here, just write all over it. Whatever.
She desecrated it.
Oh my gosh, it hurts. It hurts.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, Upside Down was terrible.
That bothered me. That was almost as bad as New Zealand season 1, where they were folding it hot dog style. That bothered me.
Couldn't she just turn it in and just write on an extra piece of paper? Because okay.
I just don't understand why. Like, this is my whole thing with the relics, right? Like, just let the relics either be relics or and use them the same way, or just make new things. Like, I agree with you. The idea of having the two halves of Ty's idol, I like that. But we've also never seen that. So why not just make that the thing?
Yeah. And let's be honest. Jenna still to this day has no idea why there were 6 votes at that second tribal council. That girl was so confused. She still lost.
So, okay, I heard this brought up. I assume it was brought up on the know-it-alls because it's the only thing that I've listened to, because I tend not to listen to anything until we record. But somebody asked the question, in previous extra votes and vote steals, it needed to be announced that you were using it, right?
Yep.
I think I prefer that. I like that there are advantages and secret advantages and stuff like that, but I don't like that a player could have no idea at all how it even happened. Like, it's funny that Jenna has no clue, but I also think I don't like it. But I'm still like mulling that over. I'm not totally sure. So I don't know if you guys have thoughts.
I think I'm okay with it. I understand. I think I'm okay with it. And I think the first time we really saw that is with Lauren. Like, when Lauren had to steal the vote to earn the vote. I think that's the first time we saw like that potentially happening.
I think I'd be cool with that.
She didn't actually get to do the vote.
Right, so I don't know if she would have had to announce it or not. I imagine she wouldn't have, but I think I would want her to. I love the moment, right? Like, I love the like thing. Yeah. I love that, but I need to process that a little more.
No, I think I'm good with that. Any other thoughts, guys?
Just really hoping the loved ones visit, lights a couple fires. Every once in a while, we see a loved one visit be that thing that somebody says, "Oh, that's right. This is not my family. This is my family." Yeah. I need to get back into game mode, and I'm really hoping that.
Especially since they are the family. Especially since Dominic refers to them as the family. Yes. And for the record, we did get to see Michael and Jenna got to see their family at.
Oh. There you
Bye,
are.
Randy.
Yeah. So to continue his point, So welcome back to Survivor New Zealand.
I'm here. I promise.
Hello again. Yeah, you were talking about the Michael and Jenna.
I was saying that they have to see their family, and I was like, it's been a while. I think we first saw this with Jessica Lewis. Was the first time we saw them see it after they had been eliminated. Still get to see their family members. I like that. I think they flew them all the way out there. They might as well get to see them for. It didn't seem like very long, according to their Ponderosa, but. You guys have anything else to add before I wrap this up?
Nope.
That's it.
Okay, Mark, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at MarcoPolo310. You can also find me and Doug on our Survivor New Zealand podcast. That's on my channel at youtube.com/MarcoPolo310.
And guys, New Zealand is worth it. Like, if you're not watching New Zealand, give it a try. I think I'm really happy with 2 episodes in. So give it a try. Doug, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at I told you so, Randy. I knew you were going to like it.com.
I said I was going to try. I knew that once they changed the things, I knew that was going to be good. And I'm in love with the Outpost. I think it's great. I love that. It's
absolutely great. For real, though, you can find me on Twitter at Ikkybooley, ICKYBOOLEY.
And Doug, I gotta also ask, who is your favorite person in Boston of the survivors? Because I know I was your favorite person, but of the survivors that you met,
oh my god,
who is your favorite?
I think it's got to be between. This is so hard because I really, really love me some Brett LaBelle, and so I was like stoked that I got to meet and talk with him. We didn't talk a whole ton though, so I think based solely on the fact that I couldn't believe how just like casual and friendly Michelle Fitzgerald is. Like, whoever Michelle Fitzgerald is talking to is her best friend in that moment. Gosh. And there's no seam. There's no meeting Michelle Fitzgerald. There's simply hanging out with Michelle Fitzgerald. So that's a big contender as well.
A guy came up to me after he got a picture with Michelle Fitzgerald where Michelle was kissing him on the cheek. And he was like, I can't tell my wife about this. I can't show her.
Here's the thing. Like, I totally understand where everybody's coming from with the co-wrong thing. But if you meet Michelle Fitzgerald in person, you instantly get it. Everything makes sense. I wish that we had gotten to see it, but you get it. I also really love that Denise's husband, Robert, was there because I got a picture with both of them, and that made my night. So that was not a one answer, but...
And this is lunch lady.
Yes, lunch late at Denny's.
I agree. Michelle Fitzgerald like stole a piece of my heart, I think. But Nick Idanza was also great from Australian Survivor. He was very nice. And of course, Brett, Adam. I'm always a fan of Rob. So they were all great. It was a fun experience. So if you ever have a chance to go to one of those, make sure you give it a try.
Yeah.
It was great. But you can find me on Twitter at Randy Knoop. That's RandyKnup. Until next time, we'll see you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.